let's talk a little bit about football. I didn't want to do this because I saw this question posed and I found it to be a very interesting one because, look, we know Patrick Mahomes, those Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. I know a lot of people are upset that I said that, but I did it anyways. But yeah, just the entire Chiefs organization seems to be the standard when it comes to the NFL. We talk about them in that way. And they've won back to
so.
Exactly
6 straight AFC championships.
That's right. And they've won back-to-back championships now.
Going for the three-peat. No team has ever had a three-peat. The closest thing to it, the Cowboys won 3 out of 4, and New England won 3 out of 4.
That's right.
Both of those were a long time ago.
And so now we get that thing that happens. Have you ever been playing one of them games like Uno where everybody just looks at each other and without saying anything, everybody realizes we got to take this person down? Like we get your skips and your Uno reverses ready. We're about to make this person's life hell. And I wonder if the NFL is having that situation. We're like, hey guys, you know what we got to do, right? We got to stop Kansas City from winning this Super Bowl this next year. And so
they're the target. They've been the target for a while, but they're like, we're not gonna be the one to get three-peat on. They're not gonna get three-peat on us.
That's I imagine that everybody in the league has to do that. So who is best positioned to stop that from happening? 877-881-1053. Yeah, you want to let's throw them out there because CBS Sports has kind of a list where they have the real top contenders.
Don't say no names yet.
They've got honorable mentions.
I love lists. People do love lists.
They've got deep sleepers.
Let me just tell you right off the top of my head, the first team I thought of was Baltimore because Derrick Henry's now joining. They are so dangerous now offensively. They already had a good defense.
And you're right. However, CBS Sports and Cody Benjamin at CBS Sports puts them as an honorable mention and not one of the top contenders, funny enough.
What? See, that's why people love lists because they're subjective.
Yeah, and one of the things that...
They're not facts, they're just subjective.
That's right. One of the things I thought about a lot recently is, I mean, once we went through free agency and seeing the ways in which that, offensive linemen moved around and then, actually taking a look at some of these rosters, the Ravens are going to have to rebuild their offensive line. And of course, we haven't gone through the draft. It's going to be a super important part of team building to have a better understanding. But as of right now, the Ravens need to figure out their offensive line. Adding Derrick Henry is great, but as we all know, the run game, you need that blocking to get that done. And so I think that probably is something.
He don't need it as much as everybody else.
Yeah, well, that's fair. But I imagine he really wants it because people have operated like, oh, he don't need it. He's like, no, I'd like it though. I'd like if somebody blocked for me. And noted in this article is that Ravens could use some receiving help still. Zay Flowers has been good.
And OBJ's gone.
OBJ is gone. And Rashad Bateman has been solid, but they still need something where you feel you have that consistency. And so, yeah, that one's up there. Okay, so Ravens not one of the top 5 contenders in that way. Is there another name that came to mind for you, CA?
Well, Joe Burrow's healthy. Cincinnati's always in the mix.
That's right. Cincinnati Bengals, who finished 9-8 this past season, in large part because Joe Burrow was not playing. I mean, a lot of shout outs deserved for Jake Browning for keeping them in that place, but that's not the team that you wanted. You wanted to be able to go out there and do really well. And I imagine the reason why T. Higgins was still on this team is because they wanted to go and contend. Of course, you had that season, which was tough, and now T. Higgins is going to have to remain, at least as of right now, on that franchise tag. But that does mean you still have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins there offensively. Then you add Zach Moss, that running back that they're paying like $4 million this season, an opportunity to help you. And then you add Mike Gesicki, who has been a tight end who's been solid in this league, added an offensive tackle, added a defensive tackle, Sheldon Rankins. Geno Stone was a solid safety for the Ravens. They added things to this roster to make it better. And I mean, you already thought they were really good when their quarterback was healthy. Now you keep Joe Burrow healthy. I think that they have an opportunity to do some real damage in the AFC. And I think they were already I imagine if they were healthy, they were probably the top contender to take down the Chiefs last year as well. That's the number 2.
The number 2. So there's a number 1.
There is a number 1 team.
I know it's not in the NFC, or is it?
Might be.
I know they don't believe in the 49ers.
They do believe in the 49ers. Obviously,
head coach.
They went to the Super Bowl last year, right? That's the answer.
They ain't gonna ever win the Super Bowl with that head coach. Nobody's gonna win the Super Bowl with that head coach.
I mean, that was a team that felt like they were pretty close in that game already, and so I guess it's easy for you to look at a team that is really balanced, a team that has not been overly picked over. And I mean, a team that was just there. And you also, depending on how you feel about the NFC, that's a team in the Niners that look like they have been, really comfortable in the NFC. And so if the path back is fairly, comfortable, find them in the Super Bowl again and see if you can knock them off the next time.
I can see them in the Super Bowl again, but I can also see them losing the Super Bowl because Andy Reid owns them and Shanahan, he's good except for in the Super Bowl.
Very fair. Very fair. Let's take it to the
In other words,
line.
I'm treating him like a quarterback. You know how people always say, what's your playoff record? Well, hey, Shanahan, what's your Super Bowl record?
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah. On the text line from the 214, they mentioned the Cowboys. The Cowboys are mentioned in this list, but they're mentioned as deep sleepers, and it feels like the right place to put them.
Are they saying the Cowboys are in a coma?
That's one way to put it. But, I mean, basically that would put them in the group of 9 to 12 on this when contending for it. They mentioned the idea that the line has questions, which, yes, right? And then they're still top playmakers, right? But this team clearly has things. I mean, we've been bantering about it up and down. There's holes that need to be addressed with this team.
So they're saying if the Cowboys get to make it to the Super Bowl,
deep sleeper.
because that's the only way you could knock off the Chiefs, they'd have to be in the Super Bowl.
That's right. That's right.
So
deep
they
sleeper.
might have some momentum. Who knows?
They'd have to. I wouldn't put it in that particular way. You know that, but but no, I mean they'd have to figure out, and it makes sense, man. The Cowboys, one, have not shown that level of success in the postseason, and two, they've put off all their work to the draft. So at this point, it would be unreasonable to put them any higher than just, that's a deep sleeper. Someone mentioned the Buffalo Bills, and I found it interesting that the Buffalo Bills were not considered top contenders. They turned over a lot of the lineup when it comes. They succumb to cap situation, so they're still going to need to figure out. And I imagine some of that is going to be drafting to have the cheaper labor to help you fix
Their
some of this.
window is closing. It's not like wide open like it hasn't been. I mean, over the last couple of years, like the Bills, man. No, this is the year they're kind of like. I'm not going to call it rebuilding, but they're regrouping. This is not the same squad from the last couple of years, per se.
Is there another team that you wanted to see about possibly being a stopper?
I'm going to go with the 469 as well. 469 said, give me the Dolphins.
And I found this interesting, and it feels like it means something as the way that people view the Miami Dolphins, because as good offensively as they were, they aren't even on this list.
Wow.
And I mean, they can really scheme up offense. I feel like people have worries on their toughness, right? Oddly enough, that this is a team that has that speed, but you get to the cold portions of the year and the time when the game is not as situated towards just throwing the ball and then running past everybody.
They never beat enough big boys last year. They're having the same kind of reputation as the Cowboys last season. Who have they beaten? They haven't beaten. They just beat the teams they're supposed to beat.
Yep, and so they oddly enough were not in there, and so that's not. And this list is not the only one that maybe does not view Miami highly, which is kind of wild. So it'll be. They really got to show some people. They got to prove. But now we're starting.
They better
to
not have Philadelphia on that list.
They do.
Oh my God.
They do.
No Miami, but they got Philadelphia.
They do with the Eagles adding Saquon.
They have no coordinators.
They really don't. They're going to have to figure some of this out. But I imagine maybe the coordinators don't look nearly as bad as last year, where it felt like they mismanaged a lot of this. Because you looked at that talent on the roster and you went, they are underperforming what they should be.
Last year.
And
they
so
really did.
And this, they speak to this, right? Obviously, Saquon is added there. C.J. Gardner-Johnson returns to Philly. Feels like a real boomer bust operation, a team that could make these rankings look silly when they get dysfunctional. So the idea is like, look, man, you got Jalen Hurts, you've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, guys that are really well-regarded, and then you add Saquon Barkley. They have the pieces, but it comes back to what you're talking about. Coaching. Will they put them in the right places? And that's going to be what we have to see. But they do you have to say, Howie Roseman puts together a roster that should be able to compete in that way.
Yeah, he really does. Again, he just doesn't get the best coaches. One other note. I'm going to agree with several Tolos texting in here saying, where are the Texans? It's got to be the Texans in there.
Number 3.
Look out.
It's amazing how quickly people have turned on the Texans. Last year, going into the season, people anticipated, that's a team that's going to stink. They traded away their first-round draft pick, and that's going to be an early pick.
They didn't even get the number 1 quarterback.
10-7 with a quarterback that everybody believes in, C.J. Stroud. D'Amico Ryans has.
Now they do.
He coached up a defense that played well above what I think they were capable. What I think most people thought they were capable of. Plus, they had some pieces that proved to be even better, and they went in really deep on making sure that they got better defensive players. Daniil Hunter goes in to be a pass rusher. Danico Autry as well. They added that linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair that I know that I would have loved if he had played for Dallas as well. So, no, I mean, the Texans, clearly the team that looks really good. I mean, they gave Baltimore a good run in that first half before Baltimore turned it up, and they added to what they're doing. So, and then you'll have another year of development with C.J. Stroud, and they keep that offensive coordinator that I thought people loved a lot. So the Niners put as the number one when it comes to possibly challenging the Chiefs from getting their three-peat. The Bengals number 2, the Texans 3, the Eagles 4. The fifth one we have not mentioned.
Atolo's texting in. What about Myles Garrett's team?
Not a lot of love
Cleveland
for the
Browns.
Browns, which is incredible. Not a lot, and I think that some of this is just like
because Houston wore them out.
Yeah, people do not believe in that offense and that quarterback, and
even though they done added Jerry Jeudy, who hasn't played well.
I think that
all the time.
I think that roster could be better. But I feel like when I say the number 5 team, people will agree.
Wait, don't say it yet.
Okay,
AFC or NFC?
NFC.
Green Bay.
Green Bay is a honorable mention for obvious reasons. Young, still young, but clearly they've shown they have the talent. This team a little bit closer to what happens. In fact, they were very close this past year.
Detroit.
The Detroit Lions.
Woo!
They were in the NFC Championship game, and I mean they helped their offensive line. They added Carlton Davis, the cornerback DJ Reader, who was a nice defensive tackle get. And look, man, that team put people on notice on their development.
They had a Super Bowl berth for a half.
Yeah.
Till halftime, and then it just kind of crumbled.
And I think the biggest thing about the Lions when you're looking at the possibility of knocking off the Chiefs and keeping them from that three-peat is they have the mentality.
Yes, they do.
Like that dog that we talk about, that grit that some people will talk about. Dan Campbell has
They'll
established
run through a brick wall for him.
Yeah, and so.
I got this line from the 214. This is too funny. He says, you're talking about stopping the three-peat for the Kansas City Chiefs. He says, Joe Burrow is Thanos. He's our only hope.
That's yeah. And it might be because, I mean, if you're inclined to look at quarterback record, the record that Joe Burrow has against the Chiefs is the one that you could point to as, okay, that is the number that is had there. So those feel like those are the top contenders to maybe keep the Chiefs from that three-peat.
Do you remember Thanos' greatest line?
You thought you could run from me?
No.
I am inevitable.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's Patrick Mahomes saying that. I'm sorry. I am inevitable. I'm inevitable. You can't do nothing about it.
And we'll have to see. That's why you play the games.
Further notice.
That's why you play the games. But this is a team.
Not till further notice.
That's right. This was a team in the Chiefs that looked like they did not have things together. Looked like they didn't even have wide receivers that they could throw to, and ultimately still win a championship. Like they made some draft picks. They made some personnel moves that technically did not work, except it did because they win.
Because they won the title.
So shout out to all the teams.
In spite of all of that,
they
overcame the adversity.
The Niners, the Bengals, the Texans, the Eagles, the Lions, and everybody else who are going to try and stop that three-peat for the Chiefs, because this is a team that, again, as CA said, feels inevitable.